Volume 8 of SANDMAN, World's End, collecting issues 50 to 56. And unlike it happens in other collections, here we start with issue 50, Ramadan, which is the best-selling single issue of SANDMAN ever, with over 250,000 copies sold. And certainly, in part, it is because of the beautiful art by P. Craig Russell, which is actually an obvious example of the ligne claire style, the clear line style popularized by Hergé Stintin. And it's very colorful, very clean in a way. There aren't many shadows despite the Sandman figure. There's almost no cross etching at all, and there's the very detailed backgrounds. Really a very good example of the clear line style in more modern days. But this volume is mainly composed of the 5 issues that are indeed the World's End cycle. And it takes place at this inn, this lodge, where travelers, people who are traveling between realms, can find shelter during reality storms, which is something that happens when some big event takes place at the realms. And the people at the lodge are telling stories to each other to pass the time. And we start with this very surreal story with a very expressionist and different art style by Alex Stevens, I believe. Alex Stevens, yeah. And this is about a sleeping city, a city which is sleeping and dreaming, and about some people getting lost in the dreams of that city. It's very surreal, but quite nice. And all the issues have art by Mark Buckingham, is it? Oh no, Brian Talbot, yeah. The action taking place at the lodge always has art by Brian Talbot, and then the stories themselves have art by other artists. This one is by John Watkins, I believe. I think so. And this is a story about Cluracan, one of the fairies that we have met before. And for me it is the less interesting of this entire volume. And then we have a story with art by Mark Zulli. It's a sea story about this girl who disguises herself as a boy to become a sailor. And in it we meet again Ob, Morpheus' immortal friend. And it's a nice story. Then here we have Brian Talbot's art in the lodge. And then we have the Golden Boy story with art by Michael Allred. And this is about Prez Ricard, an American teenager or young adult who becomes the United States president. And he is very idealistic, and people love him. But it ends a bit tragically. It's And I believe Prez Ricard was an old character from DC in the 60s or the 70s. And then we have the final story by Shi Anton Pensa about an necropolis and its inhabitants who are specialists in funeral rites, in dispatching bodies. And here we find something new about the Endless. At some point, the Endless are looking for the funeral rites for a dead sister. And we have destiny and dream and death and destruction, and I believe this is delirium and desire. So the dead one was despair, and this is the first time we have any indication that despair has died before. But the real interesting thing taking place in this volume, if we are concerned about the main story, the main Morpheus and the Endless story, and here it works as a huge cliffhanger, is what happens when the reality storm passes and the people at the lodge become witnesses of a funeral procession led by destiny. And we see a coffin being carried on shoulders, and we see despair and several other secondary characters. There's Odin and Thor and Bastet and several others, all grieving this dead. And we see death and delirium. So it is either Desire who died or Morpheus, but that we will only find in the next volumes. And we are getting very, very close to the end of Sandman. There's less than 20 issues to the end, so it's becoming very exciting. World's End, it's not one of the best volumes of the series, but not one of the worst either. I liked it. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye bye.